Hey folks, everything new under the sun. If you've been following the channel for some time, you've seen this chart, you've seen the timeline of the return of the Lord. I think we get to the brink of World War III, and just prior to World War III, a world leader stands up and says, look, I can bring peace and security and safety to everybody. And he is the one who confirms the covenant with the many for 7 years. I believe we're at that point now. We will see over the next coming days here, but I think we're very, very close. Let's take a look at a couple key items that are happening right now as it relates to Ukraine, Russia. U.S. and EU agree to expel selected Russian banks from SWIFT. So SWIFT is the financial transfer system that countries use to pass money back and forth, etc. This effectively, by removing them from SWIFT, effectively means that their banks don't have much backup. They don't have a leg to stand on, and they could be collapsing. This is going to trigger a run on the banks in Russia. And this is significant pressure. This is really going to destroy the economy there. And this is part of the purpose of it in retaliation for the incursion into Ukraine, the invasion. In the latest major escalation, late Saturday, European nations, together with U.S., have issued a joint statement committing to ensure that selected Russian banks are removed from SWIFT. This will ensure that these banks are disconnected from the international financial system and harm their ability to operate globally. So sales of gas, etc., importing, exporting, all sorts of things, and trouble with bank accounts. This is a big deal, obviously. This is going to be very painful for Russia, obviously. But, Russia probably figured this was coming. Okay. This is the next thing. Ukraine to get $350 more in U.S. defense aid, including anti-armor, small arms, and munitions. Blinken says the U.S. has now committed more than $1 billion to Ukraine in the past year. This is where it escalates very quickly. This is because if Russia wants to go out and the U.S. is now part of this. They're providing arms. They're now fair game. Do you know what? If Germany is going to send weapons, they are now fair game, both members of NATO. Germany will send 1,000 anti-tank weapons and 500 missiles to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia after overruling its own weapons transfer policy dating back to World War II. All right. If a country is providing arms, weapons, money to another country, how could it not be included when Russia looks at its enemies and says, who do we have to tackle? Are they going to tackle, are they going to attempt to deal with an endless stream of weapons and munitions going into Kiev, into Ukraine? No, they're going to go after the supply chain, right? You go after the supply line. You don't simply let these weapons funnel into Ukraine. You go after the people who are sending it and the convoys and the supply lines that are funding and supplying the resistance in Ukraine. This effectively means that U.S., Germany, and other countries are part of the war. Effectively, we are in World War III. All right? So that's Russia's calculations. This is a big deal, and look for cyber attacks to start related to this. That will be the beginning of this. The last significant thing that means we're on the brink of World War III is this article. This is a Zero Hedge, and this is reported all over. In unacceptable escalation, Putin orders nuclear deterrence forces on alert. Now, of course, they would have been on alert already, but now it's public. Putin has already threatened people with the use of it, vaguely not referencing nuclear weapons, but now it is overt and on the international scene that Putin has nuclear deterrence forces on alert. Finally, says the article, NATO Chief Stoltenberg warned that Putin's nuclear alert is both dangerous and irresponsible. What does this mean? U.S. nuclear deterrence is on alert. NATO's nuclear weapons are on official public alert now. Pentagon spokesperson confirmed that Russia's nuclear posture change is an escalatory step and warns that it risks miscalculation. Additionally, the Defense Department official refused to say if the U.S. nuclear posture has changed, and you would suggest any intelligent military would definitely have their forces on alert, nuclear weapons on alert. You can't afford to be a second late if weapons start flying. It says, Putin, Western countries aren't only taking unfriendly economic sanctions against our country, but leaders of major NATO countries are making aggressive statements about our country. Now, Putin doesn't want NATO to get involved, but the nations of NATO are making it hard for him to ignore it. His forces are significantly slowed down in Kiev because of the weapons already there, and as they continue to stream in, he's going to be backed into a corner. He can't back down now. He's invaded Ukraine. If he can't hold Ukraine, that would be a slap in the face to him. So he can't let this go. He needs to double down and do something. This means watch out for attacks on banks, cyber attacks. Putin is now essentially threatening the use of nuclear weapons in response to the announcement that the Russian central bank will be targeted with economic restrictions. We are getting close to nuclear war. And I cannot understate that enough. And this is why, as we look at the timeline of the return of the Lord, we think this is possibly right where we're at. In the beginning of 2022, think we're ahead of Isaiah 17, destruction of Damascus. Maybe the Ezekiel war is something that's going to come out of this. But I do believe we get to the brink of war. I think there's going to be significant warfare happening. Get to the brink of war, and then a world leader will step up and say, I'm going to solve all this. And that will be the Antichrist. So pay attention to what's happening and how far this goes. Do we go to World War III? The Bible doesn't seem to indicate that we get there at this point in time. That's a little ways off yet. But I think we are getting to the brink of World War III. And so this is a big deal, folks. Be prepared. Be ready for bank shortages, a run on the banks. Be ready for economic collapse. Most significantly, be ready for cyber attacks on the energy grid, on the banking system, on the internet. As they escalate it further, Putin, if their nuclear deterrence forces are on alert, you know that cyber attacks are already happening as we speak. Where are they? Are they being publicized? Do we know exactly what's happening? That's actually, I think I'll save that for another video where we look at cyber attacks happening. But suffice it to say, if he has his nuclear forces on alert, you know cyber attacks are happening and will be ramping up shortly and quickly, swiftly, you might say, as they are being removed from the SWIFT financial payment system. This is a big escalation. All nuclear deterrence forces from all countries, NATO, China, Russia, North Korea, they are all on high alert now, as are defensive systems, missile defense systems, etc. So this is a big deal, folks. Be prepared. The Lord is coming, but I think we're getting very close to something big happening before an Antichrist leader shows himself and brings in peace. And you know what? He's going to be in a place where we all lose our sovereign countries, our sovereign nations, our sovereign currencies. And it's because we're going to be desperate at that time. We're going to be sick of war and famine and pestilence and economic trouble. And we're going to readily accept this world leader. So I'm telling you this, it gets far worse than it is now before this world leader steps up, because we're going to be all brought to our knees, I believe, to a place where we will accept a global government. So we're just on the precipice of that folks. Will it be weeks, months? I don't think it's years away at this point. So stay tuned, be prepared. I hope you've prepped already. It is getting too late very, very quickly. If you haven't already stocked up pantries, got fresh water, even got maybe some iodine pills for nuclear fallout. These are all very real situations. If someone makes a wrong move, this is all a very real thing that could be coming upon us. Thanks for watching. We'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next video.